Hello, and welcome to another Tech Articles. In today's article, we're going to talk about SureCart and a question I saw in the SureCrafted Facebook group. And it's one I've seen a few times recently. And from a technical perspective, I always wondered if it was possible. And I saw the question yesterday, and actually I've seen it again today, or a similar version of it. There's lots of versions of this question, and it's about subscription sync, and that's setting your subscriptions ideally for memberships to always renew on, let's say, the first of the year, 1st of January of the year, or 2nd of January, or 3rd of January, depending on bank holidays, etc. And natively, SureCart doesn't support this. But the thing I really like about SureCart, and the reason I cover it so much, is because of its API coverage. It is so open with its API. I wish it had 100% coverage. It doesn't. There are bits and pieces that I miss myself. I would love direct uploading of plugins. It's the missing nugget of information or missing ability in me being able to fully automate my plugin development via SureCart. Currently, I can package it and license it and update it and push it to Git, but I can't do that final upload and change that upload to the latest version. And I really hope they look at that and add that to their APIs. But they've got relatively good API coverage. And furthermore, they have really good documentation. And it's why I do so many videos on it, is because although the answer doesn't exist, I think I want more people to really understand that APIs are really, really useful. And the ability to use an automator like AutoKit or Flowmatic to interact with an API is really important. But equally so, small amounts of code can do so much with an API. And in this example, we're going to use a snippet. We're going to use a bit of code. And there's quite a lot of lines of code to it. There's 200 lines of code, but there's very little going on. It's a loop and some API calls. But it does something that you can't natively do, and it's all because of the API. So I'm going to use two API calls here. One is to list subscriptions, and then I'm going to apply a bit of filtering to it. So we're going to remove cancelled or no expiry date, so lifetime subscriptions, etc., that don't have expiry dates in them. And then we are going to use another call. So this one will go to subscription, and then we'll update via periods, because a period is a billing period. Something I didn't know until I started looking into this. And then we're going to update the object that's in here, that is end at. And we're going to put a new date in here, which is a Unix time reference. So it's all relatively simple in terms of how it all comes together, but it's actually quite powerful. It allows you to do something that SureCart doesn't natively do, but using fully native API interactions. So I've got a admin interface here, and I will put the snippet on there, so you don't have to worry too much about the snippet. We'll talk about the snippet a little as we go along, but I will publish the snippet in the article that goes with this video. And this workflow effectively sets a target time and date to expire. So we set all to expire at this target date, and I'm going to set a date a little further than this because of how I've set the dates. So I'm going to set them to October 2026. I'm just going to save that. And I'm not going to save that, actually. I'll do it in the next window. And a daily time that the cron runs, and it outputs to debug logging, and obviously to enable the actual run. So I'm going to go to this next screen where I've already put my API key in, and that's why I didn't save this one. And it's hidden the API key because it's set so that you can't just pull it back out. So let's set this back again to in the future. So let's pick the 21st of October, and doesn't really matter about time. I still got to keep my cron to run at midnight. I'm going to disable logging because I don't need it in this case. And I'm going to enable it because we're going to want it to run. So I'm going to save the settings, and that is done. Now, if I go to my dashboard as a customer, I've got lots of little subscriptions that I've set up here with varying little dates, and each one of these tabs is one of these subscriptions, and that's only so that we can quickly change them soon. To do another run of this to show you this in flow, and this is all powered via a code snippet in WPCodeBox. And it's this code snippet here. And I'm not going to spend too much time going through the code, but it's relatively simple. We're pulling in dates from our GUI, and we're comparing them, and we're running a subscription loop after pulling it via the API. So we're getting our API key, then we're doing our log. Then what we're doing here is we're sending our API key to the subscription getter, which is down here, and that does that API call. Then we run through a for loop through that and check in the end. And then from there, what we do is we do some logging again, depending on where it is. And when we get to here, we get to update period, and then we put that details into this update function here, do some more logging if it's in case, and we've got an activation and deactivation hook here for our cron, and then we've got our admin page. So it's relatively simple. There's not a lot in here. The two key information really is we've got some logic in here for looping and running through our subscriptions, but the key points here are we're pulling our subscriptions via the API and then updating the list of subscription IDs that it comes back with a new end at date using the period patch. So it's very simple in that respect. Now, going back to my dashboard, I have lots of subscriptions here that I've set up. They've all got different end dates. So with that in mind, we're going to go back to WPCodeBox, and I'm going to go to a plugin called Cron Manager, and you can use any of these you like. And I'm going to look down here for the cron that is made by this particular snippet, which is this one here. And you can see here when I run this, it's going to run SureCart check and update expiry. Now, if we go back to our dashboard and refresh, you'll see here there are multiple different expiry dates here, all next year, but we want to standardize them for what we set back here, which is the 21st of October 2026 at 2 o'clock. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run that cron, and that cron will run as it has done now. And if we go back to our dashboard and refresh, you'll see here that our subscriptions have now all standardized to the date and time that we have set. And here it is, ready to renew as needed. No issue at all. Now, if we were to go back over here and I was to change this date and time, I'm going to go back to January the 1st to go back to my primary example. I'm going to save that settings. I'm going to go back to cron, and on the next evening run, this runs once a day, in my case in about 7 hours time, and we're going to run it again. And if we go to our dashboard, we will see that our subscriptions have been standardized back to the 1st of January. Now I'm going to quickly make a couple of changes to some of these subscriptions. So I've already got them preloaded with dates because I haven't reloaded the pages. So I should be able to change them to a whole load of different dates again without doing much but a couple of button pushes because I'm in the same session. So let's do that again one more time to show that, and then we'll pick a different date. So I'm going to reload the dashboard. And again, we have a total mishmash of dates. So when we run this cron, it's doing our subscription check. It's then pulling out the ones that are not expired or cancelled, and it's changing that date to sync those subscription dates, which is ideal for these membership sites where you sign up and then you have a fixed term, and every year on the 1st of January, the 3rd of January, the 5th of June, whenever it is, you pay your yearly dues again. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set a new date, and we'll go over here and we'll pick a new date, and let's go with March the 7th. So why it would be March the 7th, I have no idea, but we will do that, and we will now save that. And if we go back to our dashboard and refresh, you'll see there is nothing here but a load of mixed dates. We go back to our cron, we select it, we run it, and we should now be standardized to the date we've set, which is the 7th of March 2026, and we've standardized all of our code. So That is possible. The question that was asked is possible. Now, there is it's never quite this simple. There's always options that you want to do in this. So you could expand upon the code example, and I think that's part of the discussion that we're having here, is that we can expand that example with by changing it. So, for example, you could set a point in time where if you say it runs from year to year, so we renew on the 1st of January, you could say that anybody that signs up after the 31st of October, for example, gets to go until the 1st of January the year after, so they get 13, 14, 15 months rather than 12 months. Anyone before, they renew on the 1st of the next year. And you can do that. You might only want to do this to one particular product or one particular price ID. Well, because the information is in there in your subscription links back to your original order. Your order as what was ordered, the price ID of what was ordered. You can logically use all of these different API options. So, for example, you list a subscription and it'll tell you the checkout ID and the customer ID and other bits and pieces that are in there, including the product IDs and the price IDs. So you could then limit this to only certain price IDs. Maybe you have an annual subscription that is calendar, and then you have standardized subscriptions and they're more expensive. And you can do that. You can do that. You might want to run a 6-month subscription and for one and a 12 months for others. So you can change the way these go back. You might even want to offer certain customers a way of updating it some other way. Maybe you've got an offline method and you want to connect some other type of payment method that isn't in SureCart, and you can make sure that it's been approved and run through its approval process as part of AutoKit or Flowmatic or Bitflows or any of those sort of automators. Zapier, and then maybe you want to come here and automatically hit your API and change the subscription date based on the data of a Fluent form checkout, for example. Well, you can merge those together, and I think this is why APIs are so important. They allow you to do so much that you can't do natively. You can't do this with the base SureCart, but it's wrong to say you can't do it with SureCart, because you can. And that is why APIs are so important. That's why I love APIs, and that's why I do lots of examples of using the SureCart API. And with it, I've been able to prove that you can add all sorts of functionality from WooCommerce or EDD or any of those providers using the SureCart API. And I think it's a real credit to the SureCart team just how detailed these API documentation are. They make implementation of something like this very, very easy. And it's about opening up the possibility. As long as you understand the logic that goes with your API setup, you can achieve quite a lot. So yes, this question was asked. Yes, it is not natively possible to do it with SureCart, but it is with the API, and in my opinion, that's as native as it gets. So hopefully this is useful to people, and it gives you an idea of how you can expand on what is available in the base SureCart by using your API key and the SureCart API. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have a video you'd like to see or a question, please leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching.